Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. Today we welcome our guest from Parchment for our session, Creating Your Next Competitive Advantage. I'm Jennifer Dahlquist, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for the Midwestern Higher Education Compact. Shortly we will hear from Manager and Elias Rideau, Director of Statewide Initiatives, both from Parchment. The overview today includes a brief introduction to the Midwestern Higher Education Compact as an organization and its contracting authority, along with some highlights of our agreement with Parchment. Then I'll turn over to the controls to our colleagues from Parchment for an overview of Parchment and their statewide capabilities, some case study examples, and a few final thoughts. We will leave time at the end of the presentation to address your questions. We encourage you to ask them throughout the presentation via the chat feature located in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. But first, what is a compact? It is a contract among states. And what differentiates it is that it's actual legislation state that has been passed. The Midwestern Higher Education Compact, often referred to as MEC or MHEC, has been statutorily created in each of the member states, and this statute makes the compact an instrumentality of state government in each of these member states. What makes the compact unique to higher education community is its broad contracting authority created in each of its member states. The compact is not a group purchasing organization. The compact is a means for stakeholders in the 12 member states to collaborate on identifying regional issues and committing resources to solution through the compact's statutory authority. MEC is very selective in the types of contracts that are pursued. MEC works to identify those areas that we can bring value in, and as a result will be something that an individual institution may not be able to replicate on its own. Because we are working together and can bring value that wouldn't have otherwise been there, all of the committees are volunteers who are experts in their respective areas of interest. MEC is charged with advancing Midwestern higher education through interstate cooperation and resource sharing. We are one of 4 higher ed compacts in the nation, each having their own niche for addressing issues and advocating for higher education. Our niche has been rooted in cost savings programs created by and supported by stakeholders from our 12 Midwestern state region. MEC has agreements to extend our technologies cost savings programs to the Southern Regional Education Board, SREB, and the Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education, WICHE. Specifically, our technology cost savings program, in essence, is an attempt to leverage the volume of our 12 member states and the compacts we are extending the contract to. Currently, we have no agreement with the New England Board of Higher Education, NEBI, and as the map shows, there are 3 states not covered by any of the compacts: New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. For whatever reason, these states are not yet members of a compact. The Student Access Advisory Committee, or SAC, was created in June of 2005, and they were charged with exploring regional opportunities to increase student access. A full RFP process was completed by SAC in 2006. Parchment, who was formerly DocuFied at the time, was selected. The Student Access Advisory Committee was sunsetted, and with the participants of the e-transcript initiative, we created the e-transcript initiative Project Advisory Committee in 2010. This committee has been led by Dr. Ken Sauer, Senior Associate Commissioner and Chief Academic Officer for the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. A second RFP was conducted throughout 2012 and 13, and at contract conclusion, Parchment was once again selected by MEX eTranscript Initiative Project Advisory Committee. MEC awarded the contract to Parchment based on their sole focus on electronic exchange, their proven track record and outstanding school and state references, and because their solutions best fit the needs that were determined by our member state committee members, as well as a belief that Parchment is the company most capable of delivering those services in a timely manner to all interested member states. MEX goals of the e-transcript initiative were to increase postsecondary access in the MEC region, to save high school guidance counselors time, thus freeing them to devote more attention to students' needs, to establish consistency in transfer submission, which results in a decreased number of students who have the potential to fall through the cracks due to lost or incomplete transcripts or administrative error, And also, depending on the financing model in the state, the sending of transcripts has the potential to become free for any students, thus enabling them to apply to a variety of colleges. The initiative also enables states to analyze data useful for assessment and evaluation purposes. And of course, this initiative provides participants with a means to achieve cost savings. The region-wide initiative is beneficial to our member states in a variety of ways, including participation in our ETI Project Advisory Committee that guides the initiative and allows states to share best practices with their peers, access to product upgrades and enhancements, and through the MEC contract, entities receive the best negotiated discount available without the need for a separate RFP process because the ETI PAC has done the due diligence on behalf of our participants. At this time, I will pause to see if there are any questions about MEC specifically. Well, I don't see any questions, so I'll turn it over to Jason from Parchment.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone. We're really happy to have the opportunity to present to you today. We all at Parchment are very proud of the partnership that we've had with MEC. I've been with Parchment for the last 5 years, and it's personally been pretty amazing to see the evolution of electronic transcripts and the just growing interest that education has in the ability to gain some efficiencies by moving what has historically been a paper process online. So we'll talk today about Parchment system and use of electronic transcripts, but we wanted to start with a quick poll. You'll see the poll on the screen in front of you, and you can use the rectangular box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to expand it if the words are cut off. But what we'd like to know to get started with is just a quick temperature check on where your state or your institution is at in terms of the adoption of electronic transcripts. At Parchment, we work with thousands of different institutions, and we know that each institution tends to fall into one of the categories that we have listed. Either they've not yet adopted electronic transcripts at all, and they're still using a fully paper-based process. They have some limited adoption of electronic transcripts, so those represent some portion, but overall they're still primarily using paper processes. And then we work with a number of institutions who have fully adopted electronic transcripts, and that represents the vast majority of the documents that they receive. So we'd like to know where you're at. Looks like we have a good number of results, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And we'll see that we've got probably the majority in the category of having some limited adoption of electronic transcripts, and we've got about 25% on either side, either having no adoption or really high adoption. And so what that means is you're likely somewhat familiar with Parchment services, and for those who have not yet adopted electronic transcripts, we'll give a little bit of background. Parchment's vision is really to empower learners by making it very easy for them to access their educational credentials. That's primarily focused on transcripts both for high school and colleges. And Parchment is solely focused on building a secure service that allows institutions to connect in a relationship we call the Parchment Exchange. That exchange allows institutions that need to send to interoperate with institutions who need to receive those transcripts. And that benefits learners because we make it really easy for them to have access to those education credentials as they need them. And what we find commonly is that those learners are really after those credentials so that they can access and take advantage of opportunities, whether that's a transition from high school to college, from college to advanced degree attainment, or to move from high school or college into the workforce. And so Parchment's system is comprised of both a sending service in use by our institution, high schools across the country, as well as our post-secondary institutions, and the Parchment Receive service, which is kind of the corresponding service that allows those transcripts to be sent from high schools and colleges around the country to be received by other academic institutions, as well as other consumers of those credentials, such as employers. everybody that participates in the Parchment Exchange really benefits from having a secure, trusted electronic service that can drive efficiency for their processes. The Parchment Send service is one that we offer both to secondary institutions and a number of post-secondary institutions, as well as to our statewide partners where we have statewide e-transcript initiatives, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. We also offer the service to other partners such as the GED testing service. And what Parchment Send is really about is first giving users who are the learners at these institutions the ability to access an easy-to-use online environment to place a request for their credentials, primarily transcripts. That service is fully hosted by Parchment, and it includes a PCI-compliant e-commerce function. So students can go through the process of placing their request online through Parchment services anytime, 24 hours a day, and know that they're able to get that request to their institution in the way they prefer. On the administrative side, what Parchment Send does is provide a suite of tools to allow authorized administrators at those institutions to fulfill the requests that students are making. And that can be for both electronic transcripts as well as paper transcripts. And really, one of the most powerful things about the Parchment Send platform is the ability for that system to become fully integrated with student information systems. So on the higher ed space, we have relationships with PeopleSoft and with Ellucian that allow those requests to move from our secure online ordering service directly into the student information system, which gives the institutions the ability to define a set of documents that can be automatically fulfilled. That means that requests can go from a student placing an order online directly to the student information system and be fulfilled without any manual intervention, giving the student the ability to access their transcript within a matter of minutes versus what many institutions deal with in terms of offline processes taking several days to fulfill. Parchment Send also includes the ability for high schools to submit their transcripts electronically. We have similar integrations with some of the most popular student information system providers, including Pearson's PowerSchool product and Infinite Campus. But the system doesn't require a high degree of technical integration. We've designed Parchment Send to be interoperable with every student information system, and we also support the processing and fulfillment of legacy transcripts. So for institutions that still have records that are in paper form or on microfilm, those can be digitized and sent through the Parchment Send service. So it really comprises the ability for an institution to manage all the different types of records that they have without regard to the system that they live, and provide a consistent set of services to their students. So all students can request online, they can have both electronic and paper delivery, and that's really a matter of convenience that students expect and really drives service for students. Parchment Send is really about making sure that registrars and high school, college admissions counselors have the ability to provide students with a number of really important services. Today, students expect the ability to be able to access these documents just as easily as they make other purchases online. And without Parchment, those services are very paper-driven and can take a lot of time for students. So having Parchment allows those students to get the kind of real-time results that they expect. Bringing these processes online for registrars and for college counselors allows them to take advantage of automation and integration. So whether those requests are automatically processing through their student information system, or they're just getting rid of the paper forms that they have used traditionally to allow students to request transcripts, we're able to help drive down the costs of labor associated with processing these requests and to eliminate a big portion of the staff time that's required to manage them. In terms of physical costs, Parchment Send helps address the efforts associated with producing paper printed transcripts by diverting transcript requests from paper to electronic delivery is a big portion of what we do. But in addition, Parchment offers a fully outsourced print operation for transcripts. So whether it's high school or higher ed, those offices no longer have to manage the printing and mailing of individual transcripts, because through integration with Parchment we can deliver those all on the institution's behalf. At the core, what we're really doing is looking to benefit that learner by giving the student easy access to their transcripts, and whether that's to drive college attainment for the students who are transitioning from high school to college, or for college to college transfer, as well as students move into the workforce. We know that these transitions can be really important to students, and in support of that, we're able to provide these services to institutions around the country. As an example, currently Parchment has about 3,900 institutions that are using our sending service to transmit those documents electronically. You can see from the map that we've shared here, we have a very high concentration through the work that we've done with MEC over the last number of years. And that's primarily driven by our partnerships with our state partners who have sponsored e-transcript initiatives. But outside of those relationships, we work directly with high schools, districts, and institutions of higher education across the country to enable individual institutions with the Parchment Send service. A couple of specific examples of that are ones I'd like to share with you. Indiana University in Bloomington at the Bloomington campus has about 43,000 students. In the last 12 months, the IU system has used Parchment to deliver more than 31,000 electronic transcripts to destinations worldwide. That's a huge volume, and we're really happy to continue to work with Indiana to be able to service their students' needs. From our high schools, through our work with CEPI in the state of Michigan, we've been working with Granville High School for a number of years, and in 2014, for their senior student body of about 400 students, we've submitted more than 2,000 transcripts in both electronic and paper formats to destinations around the world. These are just two examples of institutions who have been very successful with the adoption of electronic transcripts. We're really proud of the thousands of institutions that we work with every day. And the Parchment Send service has allowed us to work with more than 2 million new learners in the last 12 months that have accessed our services to be able to use these credentials. On top of the Parchment Send service, not only do we need to provide institutions the ability to have these transcripts submitted out, we also think it's really just as important for us to have a product that serves higher ed specifically to be able to consume these electronic transcripts. And so early on, we made a decision that a huge piece of our platform needed to be focused on this effort, to be very feature-rich, because we wanted these institutions to be able to recognize the true value of moving these documents electronically. So not only did we want institutions to accept these electronic documents, but also to have fully electronic processes, so they're not receiving a bunch of e-transcripts that they then print and put in paper folders for processing. But we really wanted to build a platform that allowed those institutions to consume in a fully electronic way, because there's a huge efficiency gain that can be brought by having a fully electronic process. We do that with the Parchment Receive product. And so what Parchment Receive does is it allows institutions to securely access that Parchment exchange. They have the ability to access and store the individual transcripts and associated admissions documents that they receive from those 3,900 institutions that are sending through our services. They have the ability to retrieve those at any time, and many institutions choose to integrate the Parchment Receive service with their upstream systems. That gives them the ability to automate the entry of transcripts into imaging systems such as Highlands OnBase and ImageNow, as well as institutions that are using other services such as the Banner Document Management System. It also enables institutions to begin to import transcripts as machine-readable data. So whether that is into administrative systems like PeopleSoft or the Ellucian product suite, having the ability not only to receive an image of a transcript, but to receive a data file that can be imported to populate information about applicants and incoming students is really important in driving efficiency in the process. For admissions, that's really what we're focused on. We know that many of our partner admissions offices across the country feel like they're in this state right now with paper overwhelming them at this time of year. And by adopting electronic transcripts and building in the ability to automate the processing of these documents, the amount of effort and the amount of climbing the paper mountain that institutions, admissions offices are feeling at this time of year can be drastically reduced. And that has an impact on improving the responsiveness that those offices have to students in terms of making decisions and getting completed applications. The network of institutions that are receiving us from us in the higher ed space today is about 3,600. You can see there's a very similar distribution to the sending institutions. So we've got a lot of membership in those MEX states, but again, because of the volume of transcripts that are going through the Parchment Exchange, we've really seen adoption across the country. What's important to note is not only does Parchment allow institutions to receive transcripts within this network, but we can send those transcripts to any destination. That can be either through a secure email-driven delivery mechanism that would allow a student or an administrator to specify an email address to which we would send a notification for receipt of transcript, or those transcripts can be printed and mailed directly from our secure print facility. An example of an institution that's really taken advantage of the Parchment Send service, the Parchment Receive service is Ball State. Ball State is in Muncie, Indiana. We've been working with them through our partnership in Indiana since 2005, and in that time we've delivered to them almost 120,000 electronic transcripts. The use of electronic transcripts has really improved a lot of processes, and I had the opportunity to spend some time talking to Brad Hostetler at Ball State earlier this year. And we talked about the efficiencies in the process that electronic transcripts has driven, everything from reducing the number of mailings and follow-ups that the institution had to do with its potential applicants, to improving the quality of documents that are coming in. Through the Parchment system, there was a huge increase in the consistency and legibility of documents as they were bringing them into their imaging system. But it also allowed them to do things like proactively request transcripts and eliminate the physical efforts that are associated with dealing with that mountain of paper that they were receiving each year. They have more than 17,000 applications. So electronic transcripts brought great efficiency. Ball State really took the service to the next level by increasing the integration between the Parchment Receive system and their administrative systems. So Ball State uses the Banner Document Management System, and through integration with Parchment Receive, they're able to automatically bring those documents in on an overnight basis and queue them up. So no longer are the manual processes there to receive the documents individually, to potentially have to print them out and distribute them to different application processors who would then take them and scan them back in to the system. They've been able to reduce the number of steps in that process drastically, which has brought down the amount of time that they're spending right now during the admission season from a week backlog in document processing to being caught up every day. So together, the Parchment Send and the Parchment Receive services have really allowed us to tap in to the efficiencies of moving documents electronically. And in the 2013, 2014, the last 2 years, we've been able to exchange more than 5 million credentials. Again, you can see from the map that I'm sharing that we're heavily driven by volume through our MEX states. But as you can also see, there are a number of states that are very darkly colored, representing the large volume of transcript deliveries that are occurring in those states. To talk a little bit more about Parchment's relationship with our state partners, I'd like to introduce Elias Rideau. Elias is the Director of Statewide Initiatives, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about the relationships Parchment has across the country.
Great. Thank you, Jason, and good afternoon, everybody. Before I go into detail on Parchment's statewide initiative experience, we'd like to just go ahead and kick this portion of the presentation off with a quick question. You'll see that we're asking, for your state or institution, which of the following initiatives do you consider being the highest priority? I'll give everyone a little bit of time to submit their responses, and then we'll take a look at the results. So we've got a handful of responses in. Looks like we've got a couple more coming in. But it looks like the majority is focused on operational efficiency and degree completion. So thank you for your participation in answering this question. Now, before I go into Parchment's statewide initiative experience, I'd like to discuss how we enhance state and system initiatives. Within a number of our statewide e-transcript initiatives, we support P20 and college access and success initiatives. We also support student service and cost containment initiatives. A number of our states have expressed that their institutions require a secure and easy solution to deliver transcripts and consume data to streamline their admissions process and support data exchange initiatives like reverse transfer. Also, for operational efficiency initiatives, we provide automation via integration with imaging systems and student information systems that our secondary and post-secondary members utilize. Now I'd like to highlight our state and strategic partners. You'll see that Parchment has experienced 13 statewide initiatives, and note, as Jason mentioned earlier, that we have a high concentration of MEX states that are existing statewide partners. Our most recent statewide partnerships are actually with SREB in Wichita State, with the Virginia Department of Education and Montana Office of Public Instruction awarding their transcript initiatives to Parchment this summer. I'll go into detail on some of our statewide engagements shortly, but I think it's important to call out why states have selected us as their statewide e-transcript partner. First of all, our statewide solutions are easy to use for counselors and students, which leads to high levels of adoption and utilization. Our statewide solutions also support data initiatives by enabling our state partners to send and consume transcript data. And although we take great pride in our institutional deployments, we believe that our experience and the best practices we've developed for our statewide engagements is a significant differentiator for Parchment. We take a very unique approach in that we invest in dedicated resources to take on the heavy lifting to ensure our state partners are not only launch successfully, but also maintain high levels of utilization throughout our partnership. We provide our state partners with strong visibility via detailed reporting, and we ensure that we meet our initiative's goals via structured and consistent communication. Also, you'll see that we've called out some key relationships, some that Jason had mentioned earlier in the presentation. We'd like to go ahead and highlight some of our strategic partnerships with education leaders like the NCAA and GED, as they selected Parchment as their preferred provider for e-transcript exchange. And then also, as Jason mentioned, we're working with a number of leading education technology companies, including some of the major SIS providers. For example, Infinite Campus and Pearson. Our partnership with those two organizations support our secondary members, as well as Ellucian and PeopleSoft that support our post-secondary members. So now we're going to go into two case studies, and we'll go ahead and start with Indiana. We're very proud of our partnership with the state of Indiana, as they're our first statewide partner back in 2005 and are still engaged with us and going strong today. Prior to Parchment, Indiana had a very manual process that led to significant overtime hours for registrars and counselors, and on too many occasions, transcripts lost or spent multiple times. Since partnering with Parchment, Indiana's results have been great. Indiana's experienced high levels of adoption, which has led to significant increases in a significant increase in counselor efficiency, as well as a tangible ROI that's been observed through the Parchment partnership. Lastly, Indiana has passed legislation to mandate a common high school transcript, and Parchment has been working closely with Indiana to support this initiative. Now, to our second case study, Kentucky is a great example of a P20 initiative that we're supporting and represents one of our state partners that actually replaced their pre-existing transcript vendor with Parchment's statewide solution. For Kentucky, the change is motivated by Kentucky's desire to have a partner that was able to integrate with their statewide SIF, Infinite Campus, and that would be able to send and consume data. Kentucky also wanted a partner that had a proven track record for efficient, successful rollouts to ensure high levels of adoption and utilization. And as a result of partnering with Parchment, the results have been great. We met our aggressive rollout schedule with 100% of all public high schools now utilizing our statewide e-transcript services. And we're also working with Kentucky to create a statewide transcript template. And lastly, all colleges and universities in Kentucky are able to receive transcripts electronically via our Receive solution. I'd like to call out that Parchment supports education in a unique way. Our focus is on credential exchange for both secondary and post-secondary education. Our ability to do this at scale as an industry leader in security and compliance has enabled our extensive statewide deployment experience. That said, we focus on meeting today's needs for credential exchange while making necessary investments to support tomorrow's needs. Now I'm going to hand this back off to Jason, and he'll describe our efforts in forward thinking that has enabled Parchment to support reverse transfer initiatives.
Thank you, Al. One of the things that Parchment has been working on as it's a logical extension of the exchange service that we've talked about is the ability to support workflows for reverse transfer. And so the diagram that you see above describes the relationship that we've helped facilitate between University of Maryland and the Howard Community College system in Maryland. To step back a little bit, many institutions right now are very interested in the concept of being able to provide reverse transfer evaluation where a student who is transferred from a 2-year institution like Howard Community College moves over to a 4-year institution such as UMUC, and through articulation agreements, the institutions are able to establish equivalency for coursework that the learner has taken at the 4-year institution. What that gives the 2-year institution the ability to do is potentially award a 2-year degree to that learner while they're still in pursuit of their 4-year degree. So there's a benefit to the learner because they're able to take advantage of receiving that degree while they continue through their coursework. And what we know about today's learner is that they often have a relatively fragmented course. They may transfer between a number of institutions throughout their academic career, and they may take pauses throughout that. So having the 2-year degree as early as possible is a real benefit to that student as they continue to pursue their further education. But to facilitate that workflow, there are a number of steps that are involved. So there has to be a background of process government and that articulation that I talked about. In terms of specific students, the process really starts with identification. So UMUC has the ability to know which students had attended Howard. They monitor those students' coursework and are able to notify the students at certain periods that they may be eligible to receive a reverse degree award. So UMUC manages a process by which they both notify those students and encourage them to opt in to the reverse transfer initiative. At that point, Parchment is able to facilitate a data exchange. We allow UMUC to initiate a series of requests administratively that are delivered to Howard Community College. Those requests include the academic record of those students who have opted into the process. And so Howard receives a series of transcripts that they're able to review and evaluate based on their articulation agreements to understand if those students are eligible for degree awards. In the case that they are, Howard benefits by having increased completion rates for students who had previously transferred out without completing their degree. So the Parchment exchange fits into this process really well because we have built out that ability for institutions to both send and receive transcripts. And the possibilities around automation through this process really make it a worthwhile investment, both on the part of the four-year institution and the two-year institution, ultimately in service of the learner. So that's just one example of how Parchment is focused on not only providing a secure and easy-to-use platform for institutions to be able to exchange transcripts at the request of students and other administrators, but also to look forward to working with the higher education community on the types of issues that are important and emergent in the field. With that said, I'll pass it back to Elle, and we'll continue our discussion.
Great. Thanks, Jason. We'd like to wrap up our presentation with one last question and then some final thoughts before we go into Q&A. And our final question for today is your state or institution considering further adoption of e-transcripts? Go ahead and pause while our attendees respond to the question. And in the meantime, we'd like to encourage today's participants to go ahead and type in any questions that they have in the chat on the bottom left-hand portion of the screen. We do have a couple of questions in already, and time allowing, we want to go ahead and address all the questions. So if you have any, please feel free to go ahead and type those questions in now. So as it relates to the results, it looks like as it relates to adoption, that within the next 6 months or so seems to be the majority of where people fall on the adoption. So thank you for your participation. In conclusion, we hope that everyone will leave today's presentation with the understanding that Parchment is the leader in e-transcript and data exchange at both the institutional and state level, and that we provide our members with solutions that enable successful results for a number of priority initiatives like college access, student service, operational efficiency, and cost containment. Ultimately, we found that Parchment acts as the bridge to promote collaboration between secondary and post-secondary stakeholders. And we believe that this collaboration of all P20 stakeholders contributes to the success of our e-transcript engagements that consistently have high levels of adoption and utilization. So on behalf of Parchment, I'd like to thank everybody for investing their time with us today. And we'll go ahead and open it up to Q&A. And again, I'd like to go ahead and encourage you to type in your questions into the chat. While we're waiting for some additional questions, I'll go ahead and read off the first question, which is a security-related question. And it says, how do you ensure that the e-transcript delivery is secure? Jason, would you like to go ahead and address the security question?
Sure. Thanks, Elle. So Parchment is really focused on the ability for the transactions that happen in our environment to be secure. So that includes everything that we discussed today, both in terms of how students place requests to the actual exchange of transcripts. Parchment is the originator and patent holder of the secure certified PDF format, which is how many of our transcripts are exchanged when they're going to destinations outside of our exchange network. In terms of the transcripts that are exchanged within, Parchment has a dedicated set of processes around the security of our infrastructure, and also a set of vetting processes that we go through with each institution who joins our exchange. So any institution that is sending or receiving transcripts via Parchment has gone through that secure vetting and is a trusted member of the exchange. So we really try and focus on both the security of the partners that are participating in the initiative for transcript exchange, as well as the actual security controls, and that again includes that certified PDF format and the physical security of our network. Parchment is the only electronic transcript provider to have completed a SOC 2 audit on our data center. And so SOC 2 is really the highest grade of security audit in place for digital infrastructure. And we make sure that that is one of the highest priorities in terms of the services that we offer to ensure that everything that's happening in that interaction of very sensitive personal information about learners is protected to the highest degree it can be.
Great, thanks, Jason. We just had a question come in that asked, do you have to be a Parchment partner in order to receive transcripts from another institution?
Sure, I'll take that question now. You don't. So the institutional services that are available in Parchment Receive are available to all institutions at no cost. So as we discussed, we have more than 3,600 institutions who are receiving electronically from us today, but we don't limit deliveries to those institutions. So any student or administrator who's placing a request for delivery of a transcript can choose to send it inside that network of 3,600 institutions. They can also send it to any email address. So as long as that email address that you want to receive transcripts at is known by the folks who are initiating the requests, they can send them to the email address that you specify. Or if the transcript is not going to be received electronically, it can be sent through the mail. And again, we do that on behalf of many of the institutions that use our services. So it becomes a very streamlined and efficient process for them. And it doesn't limit any member of the community to be limited only to those institutions that are a part of the community. We've got all those facilities for sending transcripts outside of the network as our learners need to have that ability.
Great, thanks, Jason. We've got another question here that pertains to automation, and it looks like I'm not exactly sure specifically, but the question says, provide more detail on automation options.
Sure. So we talked a little bit about automation, and we have a number of different automation partners. And so whether that's Ellucian through the Ellucian e-transcripts functionality that they've made available this year, which is currently an option for institutions who are using either Banner or Colleague, and coming in early 2015 they'll be extending that support to institutions who are using Power Campus. So with that option, we have some built-in mechanisms that Ellucian has developed to allow those requests to move back and forth. We also support a number of more integrated solutions that rely on the code base that we've worked to develop inside of those systems. So as we work with institutions, they may have customizations or nuances to their processing that are not covered in the out-of-the-box solution that's built into the Ellucian service. So we've got a number of options for institutions to customize that integration to meet their specific needs. The same is true through our PeopleSoft partnership. So we've worked with PeopleSoft, and we're this year awarded Oracle validated integration status. So we're the only e-transcript provider who has gone through this level of validation and vetting by Oracle to ensure that the integration that we provide follows Oracle's standards and practices, and again allows an institution to have a controlled way to choose which requests can be automatically processed, and really get administrators out of the business of doing manual work and letting automation take control. In terms of automation options for our secondary institutions, we've got a number of different models. So some of the partners that we work with that Elle shared at a statewide level have asked us to do integrations with statewide systems, and those could be SLDS based systems or other statewide infrastructures for student records. We talked about examples of that in Kentucky, also in the state of Ohio and Montana. We're able to integrate at the state level to be able to help facilitate the transmission of those records electronically and in a way that's automated, that requires little to no administrative work on the part of the staff in the high schools. We also have individual relationships, as we mentioned before, with providers where Parchment services are baked into their products. So we've been working with Infinite Campus for a number of years. We're really excited to have established that same relationship with Pearson. And at that point, what we give institutions the ability to do is to have records flow automatically to Parchment, which really benefits those high school processing staff in these busiest times of the year.
Great, thanks, Jason. We just had another question come in. Is there a cost to the student to request transcripts? And I'll go ahead and address that from a statewide or state level experience. For example, with the agreement that we have with MEC, we have pre-negotiated subscription terms that when we work with the appropriate state agency, typically it's say Department of Education on the secondary side of the house. With the pre-negotiated pricing, what we're finding are that these departments of education are paying that subscription so that their students have one less cost and barrier to their college progression process. So in those cases where we have a statewide initiative that the state purchases a subscription with Parchment, there is no cost to the students. That said, there are engagements that we have where we have these pre-negotiated terms for discounted student pay rates. And in those cases, from a statewide perspective, there is a cost for the students to send transcripts. But again, through the MEC agreement and subsequently via the addendum that SREB states and RICHE states have, they have access to the discounted pricing. Jason, was there anything you wanted to add to address that question?
No, I think as Elle mentioned, the ability for our statewide sponsors to help facilitate that transactional experience for the student is really great. And on a national basis, what we find outside of those institutional or the statewide relationships is there are a lot of institutions that want on an individual basis to subsidize those requests on behalf of their students. And the Parchment Send platform is very flexible enough to allow really whichever model suits the institution, whether it is that student paid transactional basis or that subscription at an institutional level to support students being able to request those transcripts with no additional cost.
Great. Thanks, Jason. So we have one more question in the queue. We'll provide our participants with the opportunity to submit any last questions they may have. But the last question that we currently have is, describe your approach for managing large projects. Jason, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, sure. So as we've kind of talked about through our presentation today, we've been working on this deployment methodology for really the last 11 years. And it boils down to, at a very high level, the ability for us to approach each project in a number of phases. And so the major phases for us are first planning, then configuration, launching, deployment, and support. And so as we begin that process in planning, it's very important for us to have a consultative approach to really understand the complete set of requirements that our partners have, and that might be specific to individual institutions or requirements that are driven by our state partnerships. And so up front, it's really important for us to be able to define a very clear path to success so that as we move forward, we know what it is we're striving to accomplish from any given project. Once we have that plan in place, our focus really turns towards the technical configuration. And as I talked about with the Parchment Send service, there are a number of different options. So institutions may be working with a proprietary student information system, or they may be have a need to provide that complete integration, for example, with our OVI certified integration to PeopleSoft. And each one of those has a different level of effort associated with it. But through our experience, we've built up a really solid set of repeatable plans to make sure that no matter what the level of effort is that's necessary to successfully complete a project, that we've got the technical expertise to help institutions and state partners get everything necessary in place to really take advantage of the service. Once that technical configuration is done, we move into launching the service. And for us, it's not just about having the availability of online ordering or the availability of online receipt of transcripts, but really to make sure that every institution who is partnering with the Parchment Exchange is getting the greatest value possible. And that means making sure that there's sufficient communication and marketing. If we're talking about encouraging students to use Parchment to request their transcript. Administratively, that is on communication and training, really making sure that administrators, both in the sending and the receiving of transcripts, have a full understanding of how the process works and that how it interacts with their existing processes. Then moving into bringing that service online. So Parchment is very focused on ensuring that every institution is really able to get the service out and right off the bat to be successful. When we look at institutions who transition from a fully manual paper process for request and fulfillment of transcripts to using Parchment services, we often find in the first year that between 40 and 60% of transcripts that were previously delivered electronically, previously delivered in paper, are sent electronically. And so that's a huge gain in efficiency. And every partnership we establish, we want to have those kind of successful results to really drive the adoption of the service. Once that service is up and running, we want to make sure that the institutions have our ongoing support. We have a huge dedicated staff that's available to support both students and our administrators to ensure that whenever there are questions that they have resources to reach out to, and that's a combination of online support resources, for administrative support desk type resources, as well as phone support. So we make it really easy for anyone that needs help in our service to be able to get that. So those are really the 5 pillars that allow us to take different scales of project, whether it's a single high school or an entire statewide university system, to be able to get projects completed in a timely manner that immediately bring success with adoption of electronic transcripts.
Great, thanks, Jason. Well, it looks like we're coming up to the end of time here, and it doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in. So before I hand it back over to Jennifer with MEC, again, on behalf of Parchment, we want to thank MEX for the opportunity to present our capabilities today, and hope that everyone thought it was a good investment of their time. And thank you to all the participants for taking some time with us today to learn more about Parchment and our relationship and collaboration with MEC. Have a great day.
Thank you, and thank you to our guests from Parchment, and thank you to all of you for participating today. As soon as we're able to, we will be putting this recording and the slides up on our website, so stay tuned for that information. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.